Let me list what has been destroyed. Iran's Air Force, gone. Its Navy, gone. Over 130 air defense systems, destroyed. 8 critical railway bridges, blown up in a single night. Its largest petrochemical complex, 85% of export capacity wiped out. Its top intelligence commander, killed. 30 universities, bombed. Hundreds of military sites across 20 provinces, reduced to rubble. 6 weeks of the most powerful military on earth hitting Iran with everything it has, every single day, without stopping. The American Defense Secretary went on television and said it himself. Iran's defense industrial base is completely destroyed. Those are his words, not mine. Completely destroyed. And yet, today in a hotel in Islamabad, Pakistan, the Serena Hotel, surrounded by Pakistani security forces, with 2 national holidays declared just to clear the streets, the United States of America is sitting across the table from Iran. And Iran is the one that set the conditions for being there. Iran decided when it would show up. Iran decided what had to happen before it would agree to talk. Iran made demands, and the United States met them, not the other way around. That is the question nobody is answering. Not the military channels showing you how the bombs fell, not the news anchors telling you Iran is collapsing, not the officials saying the job is almost done. If Iran has been destroyed, if its military is gone, its factories are rubble, its commanders are dead, then why is Iran the one setting the terms? This video is going to answer that question. And by the time it is over, the way you understand this war will be different from when you started. Let us start with what happened in the last 72 hours, because this is where the gap between what you are being told and what is actually happening becomes impossible to ignore. On Thursday, Iran's chief negotiator, Ghalibaf, the Speaker of Iran's Parliament, announced from Tehran that he was not coming to Islamabad. Not yet. He had 2 conditions that had to be met before he would even board a plane. The first condition was a ceasefire in Lebanon. And to understand why this matters, you need to know what happened immediately after the ceasefire was announced. On April 7th, just 1 hour before Trump's deadline expired, a deal was announced. 2 weeks of quiet. Iran reopens Hormuz. Negotiations begin. The world exhaled. Oil dropped 16% in a single day. Markets celebrated. Then, hours later, not days, not weeks, hours, Israel launched what it called Operation Eternal Darkness. 100 airstrikes across Lebanon in 10 minutes. 254 people killed. Over 800 wounded. Apartment buildings collapsed. Ambulances overwhelmed. The largest Israeli attack on Lebanon since this war began. Launched in the immediate aftermath of a ceasefire that was supposed to mean peace. How did this happen? There was one sentence in the ceasefire agreement that destroyed the entire deal. The sentence was about whether Lebanon was included. Pakistan and Iran said it was. The United States and Israel said it was not. One sentence, 2 interpretations, 254 dead. Ghalibaf's first condition was simple: stop the killing in Lebanon before we talk about anything else. His second condition was the release of billions of dollars in frozen Iranian assets, money that had been locked under American sanctions for years. Iran's position: you want us at the table, release what is ours before we sit down. Until both were met, the Iranian delegation would stay in Tehran. JD Vance, the Vice President of the United States, who had already flown to Pakistan with Jared Kushner, and envoy Steve Witkoff, was sitting in the Serena Hotel in Islamabad, waiting for Iranians who were not coming. The second most powerful person in the country flew halfway around the world, sat down in a hotel, and waited, while the people he came to negotiate with had not even left their own airport. Then Vance made it worse. He suggested publicly that Ghalibaf did not understand what was in the agreement. A language barrier, he implied. The Iranian negotiator simply did not speak English well enough to understand the deal. Iran's response was immediate. If you are saying we do not understand the agreement, then there is nothing to discuss. We are staying home. Hours passed. Ghalibaf sat at Tehran's airport with 71 people: his foreign minister, his defense council secretary, his central bank governor, members of parliament, legal advisors, technical experts. The largest diplomatic delegation Iran has sent anywhere since the revolution. The plane did not take off, and then, quietly, without a press conference, without a public statement, the United States met Iran's conditions. Israel paused its operations in Beirut. The asset issue was addressed. Iran posted one sentence. The preconditions have been accepted. Ghalibaf boarded the plane. He named the flight Manab 168 after an elementary school in Iran that American bombs had destroyed weeks earlier, killing the children inside. He posted a photo of himself on the plane with the hashtag. Then he landed in Islamabad and walked into the hotel where the Vice President of the United States had been waiting for him. A country that has been completely destroyed does not name its flight to a peace conference after a school the other side bombed. A country on its knees does not make the vice president wait in a hotel lobby until its conditions are met. A country with no cards left, Trump's exact words, does not get to decide when and whether it shows up to negotiate. But here is where the easy version of this story breaks down, and I want you to stay with me through this part because it is the most important section of this video. The easy version says Iran is winning. It is not. Iran is absorbing catastrophic damage. Nearly 3,500 Iranians have been killed, including over 1,600 civilians. The country's industrial base has been systematically dismantled. Its missile factories are rubble. Its railway network is cut. Its petrochemical exports are functionally gone. The bombing has not stopped for 42 days. And at the same time, Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz. Iran is charging over $1 million for every ship that passes through. Iran just made the United States accept preconditions before sitting down. Iran sent 71 negotiators to a meeting where America sent 3. Both of these things are true. Iran is being destroyed, and Iran is setting the terms. Those two facts do not cancel each other out. They exist together. And understanding how they exist together is the only way to understand where this war actually is. Iran made a calculation before the first bomb fell, that it could not win a military fight against the United States. That was never the plan. America has more planes, more bombs, more technology, more money, and the willingness to use all of it. Iran cannot match that. Iran never tried to match that. What Iran built instead was a system designed to make winning expensive. Not impossible for America, expensive. Expensive in money, expensive in oil prices, expensive in political capital, expensive in alliances. Because every time Israel bombs Lebanon during a ceasefire, it is not just Iran that notices. The entire world notices. And expensive in the daily lives of ordinary Americans who fill up their cars and buy groceries and pay heating bills and wonder when this war is going to stop showing up in their bank account. The Strait of Hormuz is that system's masterpiece. 20% of the world's oil supply passes through a narrow channel that Iran sits on top of. Iran does not need to sink an aircraft carrier. It just needs to slow down the oil. 4 ships a day instead of 160. A toll of $1 million per crossing, a map that suggests the waterway might be mined, with safe lanes that only Iran knows. That is enough to keep oil near $100 a barrel and gas prices at levels that change elections. And here is where this connects to your life. Not as someone watching a video about a war, as someone paying bills. Before this war, gas was under $3 a gallon. Right now it is $4.17, and in some parts of the country, over $7. The increase in March alone was 21%. The largest single-month jump since 1967. Fuel oil went up 31%. Airfares jumped 15%. Inflation hit 3.3%. A family driving a normal amount is paying over $1,200 more per year on gas than before this war started. That is $100 a month. That is a grocery run. That is a utility bill. That is the war arriving at your kitchen table as a number on a receipt. Consumer confidence in the United States just hit 47.6, the lowest number ever recorded. Lower than the worst moment of COVID, lower than 2008. Iran did not bomb American grocery stores. Iran squeezed a shipping lane, and the math did the rest. Iran has been studying American politics for 40 years. It watched Vietnam, It watched Somalia, it watched Afghanistan, it watched Iraq. Every single one of those wars ended not because America ran out of weapons, but because the American public ran out of patience. The pattern is always the same. Support is high at the start, cost builds over time, and eventually the math stops making sense to the people paying for it. Iran is betting that this war follows the same pattern. And 6 weeks in, with gas prices at historic highs and consumer confidence at historic lows, the early data suggests that bet is not as crazy as it sounds. Here is the question that splits everyone watching this into two groups that cannot agree. You heard two realities. Reality 1, Iran's military infrastructure is devastated. Factories destroyed, commanders killed, navy sunk. Reality 2, Iran controls the world's most important shipping lane, forced America to accept preconditions, and brought 71 people to a table where America brought 3. Which reality decides how this war ends? Write military or leverage in the comments. Because the military camp believes destruction will force surrender. And the leverage camp believes Iran figured out that wars are not decided by rubble. They are decided by which side's voters break first. That argument is this war in miniature. Have it. Now let me take you inside the room where this is actually happening, because the picture inside the Serena Hotel tells you something no press release will say. When the two delegations sat down, here is what the room looked like. On Iran's side, 71 people, the foreign minister for diplomatic language, the defense council secretary for military red lines, the central bank governor who knows exactly how much frozen money exists, in which banks, under which legal frameworks, and how fast it can be unlocked, members of parliament who need to approve any deal domestically, legal experts who spent weeks preparing positions on maritime law, sanctions architecture, and nuclear enrichment rights. On America's side, 3 people. The vice president, who has never negotiated with a foreign adversary at this level, Jared Kushner, and an envoy named Steve Witkoff. 3 people covering diplomacy, military terms, sanctions, nuclear issues, maritime law, regional security, and reconstruction, all at once. Iran came to negotiate a deal. America came to negotiate a headline. Trump called it the Super Bowl in a post about Vance's trip. That is what the President of the United States compared peace negotiations. Negotiations involving the lives of millions of people and the stability of the global economy. 2. A football game. And here is the detail that makes the table even harder. The core positions do not overlap. Iran wants to keep its role managing the Strait of Hormuz, the tolls, the permissions, the control. America wants the strait open without limitation, without tolls, without Iranian involvement. Iran wants the right to enrich uranium. Vance said publicly that no nuclear weapon is 99% of it. But Iran is not asking for a weapon. It is asking for the right to enrich, which is a different thing legally, and the gap between those two concepts is where negotiations collapse. Iran wants all sanctions lifted and reconstruction money paid. America has offered neither. But there is something sitting underneath all of these issues that makes the table even more unstable. Trump posted on social media this week, "The only reason they are alive today is to negotiate." Read that sentence again. The President of the United States told a country of 88 million people, teachers, doctors, children, grandparents, that the only reason they are alive is because he has allowed them to be. Iran's delegation read that post before they boarded the plane. Every person in that 71-member team walked into the Serena Hotel knowing that the man on the other side of this negotiation publicly said the only reason their country exists is because he chose not to destroy it completely. That is not a negotiating position. That is a threat dressed up as diplomacy, and it tells you everything about the atmosphere inside that room. The ceasefire expires on April 22nd, 12 days from now. If no deal is reached, the bombs resume. And here's what I want you to commit to before that happens. Do you think Iran will accept a deal on America's terms, give up Hormuz, give up enrichment, take what is offered? Or do you think Iran will let the deadline pass, absorb more bombing, And bet that Hormuz will break America's political will before America's bombs break Iran? Right, accepts or lets it pass. When April 22nd arrives, come back to this comment section and see what you believed before you knew. But there is one more layer that connects all of this. The destruction, the leverage, the Islamabad table, into a picture that extends far beyond this war. And it is the part that should concern everyone, regardless of which side they are on. When Ghalibaf landed in Islamabad and named his flight after a bombed school, he was not being emotional. He was being strategic. Every country watching, China, Russia, India, the Gulf states, Europe, saw that hashtag. They saw a man walk into a negotiation with the country that bombed his schools and carry that school's name as a reminder. Iran is using the damage it absorbed as evidence. Every destroyed school is a photograph. Every bombed hospital is a legal filing. Every dead child is an argument that will be made at the United Nations, at the International Criminal Court, and in the newspapers of every country deciding whether to side with America or look away. The military battlefield. Iran loses. The court of global opinion. Iran has a case that is getting stronger every day the bombing continues. And while this plays out, something else is shifting. China just deployed roughly 100 naval vessels around Taiwan. Far more than typical. Security officials say this is the new normal. China is watching American credibility erode in the Middle East and drawing conclusions about what the American security umbrella is worth. Every day, the most powerful military on Earth fails to reopen a shipping lane controlled by a country it claims to have destroyed. That message travels to Beijing, to Moscow, to every capital that has been relying on the assumption that American power means what it says. Iran traded concrete and steel for leverage and a seat at the table. The concrete can be rebuilt, the seat cannot be taken back. And there is one more thing that happened this week that ties all of this together. A reporter asked Trump on the tarmac whether he had a backup plan if the Islamabad talks fail. His answer, on camera, recorded, undeniable, was, "You don't need a backup plan. The most powerful country on Earth, 6 weeks into a war it started, with oil near $100, with consumer confidence at its lowest point in recorded history, with a shipping lane still controlled by the country it claims to have destroyed. And the president says he does not need a backup plan." Iran heard that answer. The world heard that answer. And the 71 people sitting across the table in Islamabad are negotiating with the full knowledge that the other side walked in without one. 2 weeks ago, we covered Iran's 10-point demand list, the document that started this entire negotiation. Last week, we showed you how Iran turned Hormuz into a toll booth, charging $1 million per ship. Now you have seen what happened when those demands met the negotiating table in Islamabad. Watch those 2 videos. They are the first 2 chapters. This is the third. And the story is 12 days from being decided.